Welcome, welcome everyone to AI. Let's talk about it. Today, we're getting into something really crucial. It's a topic that genuinely reshapes how we should be thinking about these incredibly powerful AI tools we're using more and more in our work lives. You might think of your chats with AI as, quick, maybe casual, perhaps totally private, like a kind of digital notepad. But things are shifting dramatically. The reality of how these interactions are being seen and crucially legally treated, it's changing right now.
It really is. It's a profound wake-up call, wouldn't you say? For a long time, I think the default was these chats are just temporary, fleeting. You type, you get an answer, maybe delete it, gone, out of sight, out of mind, right? But this new landscape, it changes everything. Business integrity, legal liability. It really gets to the heart of what even is a digital record these days. It's not just about the shiny new tech anymore. It's about, well, very real, very tangible impacts on your job, your company, even your legal position.
Absolutely. And here's the parallel we're really going to dig into today, and it might sound surprising at first. We need to start treating our interactions with AI like email. Yeah, you heard that right. Like email. There's this fantastic article that's guiding our chat called If You Use AI at Work, Treat It Like Email. It really helps frame this whole thing. So, our mission today is pretty clear. By the end of this deep dive, we want you to understand why this big shift is happening, what the implications actually are for you, for your organization, and honestly, how everyone needs to adapt. Individuals, companies, everyone. It's about being informed, prepared, proactive. Okay, let's get started. Okay, let's unpack this. The real catalyst, the thing that kicked this whole conversation into high gear, was a landmark U.S. court ruling. It changed everything, frankly. When I first read about it, my reaction was just, wait, even the deleted logs? That just sounds unsettling, like a digital ghost. How did that specific detail land in the legal world? Was it really as shocking as it sounds to us non-lawyers?
Oh, it sent ripples, absolutely. More like a tremor, actually, through the whole digital communication space. Think about it. The idea that deleting something makes it gone for good is so ingrained, isn't it? We hit delete on emails, clear browser history. We just assume it's vanished. So to have a U.S. magistrate judge basically tell OpenAI, nope, you need to preserve all user chat logs, and specifically calling out the ones users thought they'd deleted, well, that fundamentally shifts the burden. It lands squarely back on the user and the platform in a way we haven't quite seen at this scale before. This wasn't some footnote in a policy update. It was a very loud, very clear statement about how permanent these digital interactions really are.
Right. So if you've ever used ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude and you've hit that delete button in your history thinking, okay, that's gone. Well, this ruling says maybe not. And what's interesting is just how broad this is. We're not talking about some obscure little tool here, are we?
Not at all. No, this covers the big ones. The large language models, LLMs, right across the board. It's not tied to one specific company or one industry. ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, you name it. Any of these AI assistants that people are using professionally. And think about the uses. It's not just tech folks anymore. It's people drafting emails, writing marketing copy, maybe summarizing complex research for a report, or even helping with high-level strategic thinking for a board meeting. It's the sheer ubiquity of these tools, how deeply they're getting into almost every workflow, that makes this ruling so incredibly significant.
So if you're using AI for any professional job, writing a report, doing market research, brainstorming a campaign, even just asking for a quick take on a tricky problem, every single interaction, your prompt, the AI's answer, it's all potentially a permanent digital record now. And what's kind of unnerving is how many people probably still think of it like that digital scratch pad, just vanishing moments later.
Yeah, exactly that. The feeling was impermanence, like scribbling on a whiteboard and wiping it clean. But this ruling didn't just bend a rule, it kind of shattered that illusion. It establishes that AI outputs, and the whole conversation leading up to them, they aren't just experiments anymore. They are data. And that data, however casual it might feel to you when you're creating it, it has staying power. It's a really powerful precedent. It fundamentally changes the whole nature of these interactions. I saw a survey recently, I think it said something like less than 15% of small and medium businesses even have a formal AI use policy. That's a huge gap, considering this new reality.
It really is. So many of us initially saw AI prompts as, yeah, like a personal thought bubble, maybe a temporary scratch pad, fleeting, casual, private, definitely not permanent. You type, get an answer, maybe tweak it, move on, assume it vanished or was just for your eyes only. But the new reality is completely different. These interactions, they're increasingly being treated just like your official business emails, permanent digital records. It's like our digital brainstorming is suddenly subject to audit. No more what happens in AI stays in AI, huh?
Precisely. The Digital Vegas is definitely under new management, and the House rules have changed. And honestly, the stakes are way higher than just losing at the tables. We're talking real legal exposure, damage to business integrity. And this points to a really fundamental shift in how we even classify these LLMs. They're not just isolated tools for playing around anymore, not just for tech enthusiasts experimenting. They've moved way beyond that. LLMs are now deeply embedded in actual workflows. Across all sorts of industries, they're integrated into client deliverables, they're influencing major business decisions. I mean, think about it. A marketing team using AI for key messages for a launch. Finance using it to summarize earnings. HR using it to draft internal policies. Or maybe an AI helps draft part of a legal brief or compile a financial report that investors rely on. The outputs aren't informal anymore. This integration changes their status. They become, effectively, official business communication.
And official business communication. What does that really mean in practice? It means they could be subject to legal discovery, right? For listeners who aren't lawyers, what does that actually look like? Is it like lawyers get to go on a digital scavenger hunt through your AI chats?
That's actually a pretty good analogy. A highly structured, legally mandated digital scavenger hunt. Imagine your company gets involved in a lawsuit. The other side can request access to relevant internal communications. And here's the key part that doesn't just mean emails or memos anymore. Potentially, it means every single prompt and output from ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, if it's relevant to the case. So that May 2025 U.S. magistrate judge order targeting OpenAI, it means data from both free and paid users, including those chats you thought you deleted, could potentially be requested and used as evidence in court. It's like suddenly discovering a whole new unlocked drawer in your digital filing cabinet you didn't even know existed.
Right. So connecting the dots, AI outputs are absolutely not immune to legal discovery. They can be, and frankly will be, treated just like email or internal documents if a court deems them relevant. This isn't some far-off future thing, it's the reality now, so why should you care? Personally, professionally. Because the chance these interactions could be stored, audited, maybe requested in court is very real, even if you thought they were totally private or temporary. This seems especially concerning for professionals using AI in ways that directly touch clients, contracts, or big corporate strategy decisions. The danger seems significant. You could unintentionally expose sensitive or proprietary stuff.
Absolutely. The implications are huge, both for individuals and their organizations. It forces a total rethink of every interaction. Let's make it concrete. What does unintentionally exposing sensitive information actually look like? Okay, imagine a product team brainstorming a new feature. Someone pastes snippets of confidential market research, maybe even lines of proprietary code, into an AI to get summaries or draft copy. If that AI platform stores those prompts, even if the user deletes their local history, that confidential data is now sitting on a third-party server. That makes it potentially discoverable in a lawsuit, or even vulnerable if that third party has a data breach. That's a direct leak of IP, trade secrets. Could be disastrous competitively.
Or maybe a salesperson uses AI to draft a proposal and accidentally includes details about an internal pricing strategy that wasn't meant to go out. If that AI chat log gets subpoenaed later, boom, the company's negotiating power could be seriously weakened. The casual, just ask the AI approach, it's just not sustainable in a professional context anymore. The risk that a prompt, or maybe an AI's answer, could reveal something privileged or contradict a public statement, that liability is just too big to ignore now.
And think beyond lawsuits for a second. Think about regulatory fines. Say you work for a global company dealing with EU customer data. An employee, maybe not realizing the implications, input some personally identifiable information, PII, into a public LLM. That's not just a slip-up. It could be a direct violation of something like GDPR. We could be talking massive fines, millions, way beyond just the legal costs of a lawsuit, or compliance issues. An AI used to draft internal HR guidance might inadvertently create biased language or maybe contradict existing company policy without anyone noticing right away. If those AI-generated drafts are later used officially, that could open the door to discrimination lawsuits. These are really tangible, serious consequences that demand a much higher level of care.
Okay, so given this, well, frankly, this sobering new reality, it seems pretty clear. Using AI at work now needs the same level of discipline, the same caution we apply to, say, email or other traditional digital channels. We wouldn't just fire off an email with sensitive client data without thinking, right? Or keep strategic notes in a shared public folder. Well, that same rigorous mindset has to apply to our AI interactions now.
Exactly. The thinking behind it is pretty straightforward, really, and kind of unavoidable. When AI is generating content that influences big decisions, or drafts important documents, or shapes how the company talks to the outside world, that content carries real legal and reputational weight, serious weight. This isn't just about getting things done faster anymore. It's about accountability, robust accountability. Every piece of content these models create, especially when it touches on core operations or client stuff or compliance, it could potentially be scrutinized later. It needs to be treated with the same gravity as any other official communication that represents the company. The context of its use is what matters most.
And that's why comparing it to email is so powerful. It really sets the right bar for accountability. Like email, AI content can be discoverable in legal cases. It's attributable. You can usually figure out who generated it or whose account was used. And crucially, if it's mishandled, it can be incredibly damaging. Just think about an email with a mistake or confidential info getting out serious trouble. The same applies now to AI content.
It's potentially even more damaging than email, I'd argue. It's about the potential scale. An unverified email might contain errors, sure, but an AI output, especially if it gets used widely without proper checks, could spread inaccuracies or misrepresent things on a much larger scale. That has huge ripple effects for brand reputation, public trust. The tools themselves, yeah, they feel informal. Typing a prompt into a chat window doesn't feel like drafting a legal doc, does it? But the context, the purpose you're using it for is often very formal. If you're using AI outputs for internal memos that guide staff actions, or financial summaries that inform million-dollar investments, or HR guidance that affects employees' lives, or client reports that form the basis of a contract, well then that content is, for all intents and purposes, part of the corporate record. The casual interface doesn't change the formal application. It stops being about how you feel using the tool and starts being about what the output is actually used for.
So the new standard has to be AI-generated content should be reviewed carefully, retained appropriately, and governed under your existing communication and compliance policies. It can't just be a Wild West situation. Before an AI output gets used officially, someone needs to check it. Is it accurate? Is it relevant? Does it meet company standards? And then it needs to be saved, categorized, managed, just like your other important company records.
Absolutely. This shift in perspective is critical. It's essential for protecting individual employees and ultimately the organizations they work for. Without these standards, people are operating in this really risky gray zone. They could be creating serious liabilities without even knowing it, which, raises a really important question. How many organizations are actually doing this right now? Are they actively reviewing AI content? Are they retaining it with the same care as their email archives or document systems? My guess, for many, the answer is probably not yet, or at least not consistently. And that's a major oversight that needs fixing fast. The potential for unmanaged AI stuff to create inconsistencies, IP problems, even compliance failures, it's honestly staggering.
And the risk isn't just theoretical, right? Like, imagine an AI drafts a press release, and maybe it accidentally includes info that wasn't supposed to be public yet, or uses phrasing that sounds like a financial promise without the right disclaimers. If that output gets used, even just internally for discussion, it's now part of the record. Could lead to regulatory trouble, market issues, or think about using AI to summarize customer feedback. What if, because of some subtle bias in how it works, it misses crucial negative comments? If the product team makes decisions based on that incomplete summary, they could end up building something customers hate. Big financial loss, damaged reputation. These are the kinds of real-world consequences we're talking about when AI content isn't treated like other critical business comms.
And then there's the whole intellectual property angle, which gets incredibly tricky with AI. If an employee uses AI to generate code or maybe create images for marketing or draft a new product concept, who actually owns that output? What if the AI was trained on the company's own secret data? Or if the prompt itself contained confidential internal strategies? The lines around ownership and confidentiality get really blurry really fast if you don't have clear rules. That's why this review, retain, govern approach isn't just good practice. It's fundamental for protecting a company's assets, its future ideas, its competitive advantage.
It also connects to attribution and accountability. If AI generates something for a key client proposal, say, and there's a major error in it, a wrong fact, a miscalculation, who's on the hook? Is it the person who wrote the prompt? The AI tool itself? The company for letting it be used without checks? By treating AI outputs like formal records, you start to build that chain of custody. You track who reviewed it, who approved it, how it got used. That's vital, both for internal quality control and for defending yourself if something goes wrong later. This moves us beyond just using AI to really managing AI, and that's a huge shift for any organization. Okay, so this changing reality, it leads us straight to the next logical step, and honestly, it feels pretty urgent now. Every company needs a formal AI policy, period. Doesn't matter how big or small you are, what industry you're in, or even how much AI you think you're using right now. This isn't something you can just wait and see on. Wait for AI to become more common in your field or let other companies figure it out first. It's here. It's having an impact. It's already presenting risks that need managing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You just can't rely on everyone's personal judgment or, informal office norms anymore, hoping people will just get the risks and best practices. That's not a strategy. These AI tools are so powerful now, so easy to access, and they're creeping into almost every business function. Their impact is so widespread that it has to be managed systematically. With clear written rules, without a formal policy, you're essentially letting every employee navigate this super complex, fast-changing legal and ethical minefield on their own. And that, host, is just asking for trouble. Inconsistency, legal exposure, maybe even internal chaos down the line. A good policy gives clarity. It creates a unified approach to using AI responsibly. It protects the organization.
So what should be in a good, robust AI policy? Our source material is pretty clear on this. It needs to spell out a few key things. First, what tools are approved? Sounds basic, but expert, isn't this where that whole shadow IT thing becomes a real headache?
Oh, massive headache. It's a huge blind spot. Employees, they just want to be efficient, right?
Yeah.
Get their work done. So they might turn to free public AI tools. But those often have totally different data rules, different privacy policies. Compared to a properly vetted, maybe enterprise-level solution the company's approved, imagine someone pastes sensitive client info or secret market research into a free AI tool online. Poof. That data is now on some third-party server the company has zero control over. No contract, no audit trail, nothing. An approved tool list isn't just a list. It's a first line of defense. It means there's some level of contractual security, hopefully encryption, ways to audit usage. It's critical for stopping data leaks and compliance nightmares before they start.
Okay, and second, the policy has to detail how outputs may be used or stored. This loops right back to discoverability and record keeping, doesn't it? It's not just about using the AI, it's about managing the result.
Precisely. If AI helps draft a contract clause, let's say, that draft needs to be saved properly, maybe alongside the final version in the company's official system. And it shouldn't just be a cut and paste. Maybe you need to save the prompt too. The raw output, metadata, like who ran it, when. It needs solid version control, just like any other critical document. Who signed off on it? Who tweaked it? You wouldn't just print an important email and then delete the digital original, right? Same idea here. You can't just copy the AI text and ditch its digital history. It's all about maintaining that clear chain of custody, that accountability trail for anything AI generates that influences business.
And third, the policy has to lay out what safeguards are in place to protect privacy, intellectual property, and compliance obligations. These feel like absolute must-haves today. What do those safeguards actually look like in practice?
Right, so digging into those safeguards. A good policy needs to define acceptable use cases. What can you use approved AI for? And maybe even more importantly, what can't you use it for? Like maybe prohibiting putting any customer PII or classified company secrets into general AI tools, or requiring data anonymization first. It absolutely needs to spell out training requirements. Everyone using AI needs to understand the risks, the rules, the responsibilities, not just a quick memo, but real training with practical examples. Do this, don't do that. And then oversight procedures. How is usage monitored? How are outputs reviewed? This needs to match the level of risk. For super sensitive stuff, maybe you need multiple layers of human review and sign-off before anything AI-generated goes external. For lower risk tasks, maybe it's more streamlined, but never zero oversight. Look, this isn't about blocking AI. It's about enabling responsible AI use, putting up guardrails so people can innovate safely.
Okay, but what about that common pushback? My company doesn't really use AI. You hear that sometimes, especially if there hasn't been a big formal rollout. But the reality is, even if the organization isn't pushing AI tools widely today, its employees probably are. Contractors might be, vendors could be, someone's trying ChatGPT for help with slides, someone else is using Gemini for ideas, maybe Claude for summarizing meeting notes. The tools are just too easy to access. People will use them, sanctioned or not, if they think it helps them do their job better or faster.
And that's exactly where the danger lies if there's no policy. Failing to provide direction just opens the floodgates. You get inconsistency everywhere. You get potential liability popping up unexpectedly. You get preventable harm. Without a policy, it's a free-for-all. One employee might be super careful, redacting everything sensitive. Another might paste client data into a public tool, thinking it's private. That inconsistency creates weak spots, vulnerabilities, data breaches, IP theft, maybe falling foul of regulations without even realizing it. Having a policy isn't about control for control's sake. It's a proactive shield. It protects the company from the inside out. No policy doesn't mean no AI use. It just means no managed AI use. And as we've discussed, that's way more dangerous today.
Yeah, like picture a marketing team. One person uses AI for ad copy and feeds it confidential launch details. Another uses it just for grammar checks on stuff that's already public. Without a policy, they're both just using AI. But one person's actions could leak crucial competitive info. Or a legal team. One paralegal carefully avoids putting case details into an LLM. Another uses it to summarize depositions, maybe accidentally exposing privileged client stuff.
Exactly.
These aren't wild hypotheticals. These are the kinds of risks popping up every day when there are no clear enforced rules.
And it goes beyond your direct employees, too. Think about vendors, third-party contractors. If your partners are using AI to help with work they're doing for you, are they following the same strict standards you'd expect internally? If your policy doesn't explicitly cover them and isn't baked into your contracts, you could end up liable for their AI mistakes. Even if it happened outside your direct view, it just highlights how pervasive AI is becoming and why you absolutely need that formal framework. It needs to cover everyone who touches your business. Internal, external, direct, indirect. It's really just fundamental modern corporate governance at this point.
So the business world seems to be moving past that idea of AI as just an experiment, right? Something fun to tinker with on the side. It's shifting from the edges right into the core of how work actually gets done, changing processes, boosting productivity, even shaping strategy. And as that happens, the stakes just get, well, they get much higher.
Exactly. Much higher. As AI becomes really central to productivity, communication, and especially those big important decisions, the consequences if something goes wrong, they just grow exponentially. When AI isn't just helping with a quick email, but maybe recommending strategic directions based on market data or providing insights for huge investment choices, the room for error basically disappears. The impact of a bad output or a biased recommendation or a data leak suddenly becomes far more severe. It could hit the bottom line hard, damage reputation, lead to regulatory fines, even create permanent legal problems. That level of integration just demands a matching level of control and accountability.
And because the stakes are higher, organizations really have to put internal controls in place that match that new level of accountability. This isn't about trying to stifle innovation or making AI use slow and clunky. It's about making sure that as we embrace these amazing tools, we do it responsibly, ethically, with our eyes wide open to the potential impacts, good and bad. It's really about building trust. Trust within the organization and trust with customers and the public.
And that really starts with three key pillars. Foundational pillars for any responsible company getting serious about AI. First, education. Making sure everyone, from the new intern to the CEO, understands what AI can do, what it can't do, and what the risks are, not just in theory, but how it applies to their actual job. Second, policy development. That's what we've been talking so much about, creating those clear, practical, enforceable rules and making sure they adapt as the tech evolves. And third, leadership alignment. The message from the top has to be crystal clear. Responsible AI use is a core value. It's not just a compliance task to check off. It needs to be part of the company culture.
So let's just hammer home the core message one more time. Treating AI usage like email. It's not hyperbole, it's not an exaggeration. It is quite simply a necessary shift in mindset, an urgent one. It's about elevating how we view and manage AI-generated content to the same standard we already use for things like email or other critical business communications.
And when we apply those standards, when we treat AI content with that level of seriousness, we get multiple benefits, really crucial ones. First, we protect the integrity of our work. We ensure what we produce is accurate, ethical, defensible. Second, we significantly cut down our legal exposure. We proactively manage the risks of data breaches, IP fights, fines, contract problems, and maybe most importantly, we lay the groundwork for responsible innovation. We can harness AI's power, get that competitive edge, but do it safely, protecting our companies, protecting our people. This isn't about slowing down AI. It's about making AI adoption sustainable, secure, and ultimately much more valuable in the long run.
So let's be absolutely direct here. If your organization doesn't have a comprehensive AI policy right now, now is the time. Not just a good time, it's the essential time to create one. Don't do it because it's trendy or because other companies are. Do it because it is absolutely fundamental to operating responsibly, securely, and competitively in a world that's increasingly shaped by machine-generated content. You just can't afford to leave this to chance anymore.
And maybe just a final thought to leave you with. Building on this idea of AI becoming so pervasive, what other digital interactions that feel casual today might soon come under similar scrutiny, might require a similar step up in our professional discipline? Today, we're talking AI chat logs and email. But what about tomorrow? Could it be your internal Slack or Teams messages, your collaborative document histories showing every edit, maybe even transcripts of your video calls? Could all of that become subject to legal discovery, needing strict record keeping? How can we, as professionals, as organizations, try to anticipate those next shifts? How can we adapt our digital habits before the next big wake-up call arrives? It's really about cultivating this ongoing mindset of vigilance and adaptability in our work lives, which are just becoming more and more digital. Something to think about.
And that brings us to the end of this deep dive on AI. Let's talk about it. We really focused today on that surprising but really critical truth about AI data sticking around and why we urgently need new professional standards. We genuinely hope this discussion helped you get a clearer picture of this complex area, understand the stakes, and feel better equipped to navigate it all. Staying informed is key.
Absolutely. And for those of you listening who want to explore this further, maybe dig deeper into the strategic side of integrating AI into business and ensuring you have the right governance and ethical checks in place, there's a really great resource we can point you towards.
Yes, definitely. It's a book that really connects well with a lot of what we discussed today, offering some very practical advice.
We'd highly recommend checking out Shelley Meadows' book, From Data to Decisions: AI Insights for Business Leaders. You can find it easily on Amazon. It does a fantastic job diving into responsible AI integration, looking at strategic uses, and talking about how to build that data-driven culture that really embraces AI's power, but does it the right way. It's just a very valuable guide for anyone navigating AI adoption in a professional setting, helping make sure your decisions are informed, compliant, and smart.
Thank you so much for joining us today for this deep dive from AI. Let's talk about it. Keep asking questions, stay curious, and please engage responsibly with the technologies that are shaping all of our futures. We'll catch you on the next one.